Hi everyone, I'm wishing you all a fantastic Friday. This is going to be a very different video from what we usually do. We are going to be talking perhaps philosophically and opportunistically about a problem that currently plagues humanity right now in regards to free will and how your use of that is essentially being controlled, and the solution to that, which of course has a distributed ledger, potentially playing that role of enabling a more less controlled by the people that currently control its system. And you are going to perhaps have a say in whether you choose to be subject to the algorithms and the kind of digital machine that ultimately manipulates you or not. So this is not a video for everyone. It's a very interesting video, and it's interesting from a number of points of view. So first of all, it's interesting from the point of view that people need to wake up to this. They need to wake up to what's happening. And second of all, it's interesting from the point of view that this problem being solved depends on human beings waking up to it, but also depends on, I think, the adoption of distributed ledger technology to ultimately break up the 4 or 5 companies that essentially control the internet and thus control a lot of human consciousness as a result of it. There was a man before we, and this video was largely inspired by Elon Musk retweeting a tweet from Jack Dorsey, who of course was the former founder of Twitter, now known as X. I preferred Twitter. I thought Twitter was a way better name than X. But this tweet was inspired by something that he said, and this is distributed ledgers for me answered a lot of questions that I had, or gave the right response to a lot of the questions that I previously had about the world, about money. And actually, it doesn't just stop there with money. And this is what I mean by this idea is larger than Bitcoin, because what's more influential than money? Influence itself, thought, and the control of that thought. Any great dictator out there knows that to essentially control a population, you have to influence how they think. And that is arguably far more valuable than money. And this is why I say this is a lot more, this is a bigger opportunity than Bitcoin in regards to, this is a bigger opportunity in the sense of decentralizing something that is bigger than money. And you'll be saying, well, how can anything possibly be bigger than money? Well, the idea or the power to influence people's thought through the internet, which is the preferred apparatus that's done nowadays, and it's controlled by a very small number of companies. And with distributed ledgers, we're breaking those up. And this is why I think Deepin is the biggest opportunity, and decentralized AI, because those algorithms are only going to get smarter and smarter. As we move towards the Internet of Things, the data that's being processed by these algorithms, and a big distinguishing factor between human beings and computers, is they can simply compute more than we can. So that's why they're optimal and going to take over a lot of the jobs from human beings, because they can do more things. They can compute and understand and compound more things, and thus get a perhaps greater answer than we can. It's why, for example, we use calculators over the human brain. And this applies on a much deeper level. But I'm losing people now. So what we're going to do is we're going to play this clip of Jack Dorsey. Before I do that, I want to introduce people to a book called Cybernetics and Society by Norbert Wiener. Norbert Wiener, very unfortunate name, by the way. It's titled The Human Use of Human Beings. Now, this book is one that is pretty high regarded with the sort of technocratic society, the dataists. And it essentially talks about how human beings learn a little bit and how computers are going to play a role in that. And actually, Norbert Wiener, all the way back in the 1950s, he was one of the first people to talk about AI and things like that, basically said we're in big trouble when we have a device in our phone that's connected to a centralized entity. And we all now carry mobile phones, and they influence us far more than I think people realize. And the problem that you've got is, and this is where distributed ledger step in, is if these devices and what's pushed through these devices through algorithms is controlled by a very small number of individuals, that makes those companies more powerful than entire governments and nations and coalitions of nations, the EU, for example, because they far extend that reach. And ultimately, through that, can control value. The thought that we attach around value. Why is Bitcoin valuable? I want people to answer that question in the comment section. My belief is because people believe it to be valuable, and money really is just a belief system. We've had many, many forms of it throughout history. The word tally comes from tally sticks. Here in the UK, there was a great fire that was caused by sticks, essentially, that we used as like a debting account. And the phrase, the short end of the stick, comes from the person that owed the debt had the shorter end of the stick. So we've used various forms of money throughout history. And if you can control what influences people to believe something is valuable, which is how designer brands essentially work, you have, and this is where I think this is going to be a larger opportunity than Bitcoin, because the breaking up of that is probably more important, arguably, than money and value itself. Of course, breaking up value is of the utmost importance. But this book also talks about how human beings learn and what we are. And on a very simplistic term, I think we're a lot more than science can explain, by the way, guys. That's my own personal beliefs. But I think in a very sort of simplistic term, how we learn as human beings is through output and input. We're a constant loop of information, basically. We put out something, like we learn to ride the bike, we fall off the bike, we learn from that, and we grow from it, and we kind of change our personality and who we are as a result of it. And you see that with things like fashion and things like that. The problem is now you have a mobile device in front of you like this that is consistently giving you input based on oftentimes the output that you give, but more and more frequently an algorithm that is dictating what it is you should see. And this needs to be disrupted. Otherwise, it's a very, very scary future that we're moving towards. Not to scare anybody, because I think in the face of all this, you should stand up and you should look towards these distributed ledgers as a potential fix to these problems. Because if we can have a system that we can opt out of or opt into, it mitigates a lot of what's potentially there. Also, if we have a system where we can have on-chain governance of the human, we can vote as a species. We're getting really into some deep, dark stuff. But let's play this clip of Jack Dorsey. And then let's perhaps talk about the opportunity and talk about how distributed ledgers actually solve this. And they've gone far, far from just being money into now being, you can distribute anything with these ledgers, and you can incentivize the maintenance and the upkeep of anything with a distributed ledger. So let's dive into this clip from Jack Dorsey.
This is going to sound a little bit crazy, but I think that the free speech debate is a complete distraction right now. I think the real debate should be about free will. And we feel it right now because we are being programmed. We're being programmed based on what we say we're interested in. And we are told through these discovery mechanisms what is interesting. And as we engage and interact with this content, the algorithm continues to build more and more of this bias. But the algorithm, even if it's open source, is effectively a black box. You cannot predict 100% of the time how it's going to work, what it's going to show you. And it can be moved and changed at any time. And because people become so dependent upon it, it's actually changing and impacting the agency we have, the free agency we have. And I think the only answer to this is not to work harder at open sourcing algorithms or making them more explainable about what they're doing and why they're doing it, but to give people choice. Give people choice of what algorithm they want to use from a party that they trust. Give people choice to build their own algorithm that they can plug in on top of these networks and see what they want, and they can shift them out as well. And give people choice to have really a marketplace.
So I absolutely agree with Jack. We kind of led into that, I think, with a lot of what we were saying in regards to what's currently plaguing humanity right now. Has the internet brought an unbelievably large amount of good with it? Undeniably, but just like with everything, there's always downsides, and anything can be turned upon its head in the hands of the wrong individuals. And I think that's where we're kind of at right now. And I think Jack's answer to that solution was to give people a choice. That is what distributed ledgers are all about, to give people that alternative system. To say, hey, look, this is through just the asset existing, Bitcoin existing, it's given people the inkling to try and understand the fiat systems and to say, we don't want a part of this. This is not for us. This is bullshit. Excuse my French. No offense to any French out there. And that's why Bitcoin is such. When I say the Nikkei is the short yen trade, Bitcoin is the short dollar trade. The SPY is a short dollar trade. Assets are short dollar trades, and this is why the rich get rich and the poor get poor. So Bitcoin has really opened up Pandora's box on a broader level, because what Bitcoin's done is it's enabled the maintaining of a distributed ledger through decentralized means by incentivizing people with a token. And this can apply to anything. So Chainlink really back in 2018 opened up my mind. I think I heard of Chainlink, and I'm not ashamed to say this, for a Tika Tawari talk. I think he was on London Real, and Chainlink was one of the picks that he gave. I think it was about 20 cents back then. And, having stuck around through the bear market, when Chainlink came about, I kind of went, wow, you can use a distributed ledger to provide data feeds. And if you look at what Bitcoin is, and we'll talk about who's kind of controlling things at the moment and how they're controlling that and how a distributed ledger breaks that down. If you look at what Bitcoin is, all Bitcoin is a global computing network. All a miner is somebody through their ASIC chip or whatever it is that gives their computing power to the network and helps to maintain it. And the more computing power there is, the stronger the network is, theoretically, because ultimately, if a bad actor came along, he would need more computer power than the rest. 51% is what 51% attack is, to essentially mess the ledger up. Because how these distributed ledgers work is they cross-reference one another, and essentially the most votes for the correct, you hope, ledger is the one that wins. If you had more votes for the wrong one, it would be wrong. And essentially they do this via record keeping and compute. So these systems are just compute systems. They're computer power, basically. Just like a chip in your computer, like a CPU or GPU. Now, what distributed ledgers have done is they've come up with a way to essentially incentivize the structure that enables the internet. This is what DePIN is. This is what it stands for, decentralized physical infrastructure. So many people don't think about this, but when you use the internet, there is a physical crossover in the real world. It just seems like it's this thing that lives in the ethos, and it's not. There is physical infrastructure that stores all the data on the internet, and that actually does the tasks that you do on the internet, like watching a YouTube video, for example. That data is stored somewhere in data centers, and then it's computed in whatever way, shape, or form. So there's a need for physical infrastructure, and the people that own that physical infrastructure own your data and ultimately own the internet. They own the compute, they own the network, so the towers and things like, if you're talking about mobile phone networks and things like this, but also on the internet, they own the infrastructure that surrounds it. And just like Bitcoin said, okay, let's decentralize money, people went, well, actually, we can use that compute to do these things that enable the internet. And as of today, the internet is essentially, I think a couple of companies have like 60% of all the physical infrastructure. And if that physical infrastructure is enabling the very thing that influences you, and not only do they have the hardware, they also have the software, that is a bigger problem. And I'm not, by the way, guys, you got to make up for your own mind here. I'm not saying these companies are evil. I'm saying you decide whatever you decide they are. What I'm saying is it's a big problem to have that much power without at least an alternative, like what Jack Dorsey was saying there. And distributed ledgers can offer that. And the opportunity here is that if these companies that enable the internet are the largest companies in the world, trillion dollar companies, there's more large companies that enable the internet than there are any other companies. If they're the largest companies in the world, what do you think the value of the decentralized versions of those are going to be? Trillions of dollars potentially. And to bring up the rise of AI, with AI, which is an evolution of being able to compute things and run algorithms as a result of it, these advanced learning models, or these generative learning models, it's a lot more complex than that, but they take that concept and build upon it massively and learn from it and become smarter from it. It's kind of almost more needed to have a decentralized version, because AI is going to be more pivotal than the agricultural revolution, which displaced millions of farm workers and laborers with the implementation of machinery. It's comparable, but it's a totally different thing. So we need, this is where the opportunity is, 100% to decentralize these systems and to give people choices, which is what cryptocurrencies and distributed ledgers are all about. Now, whether we run into problems down the road in regards to who controls these distributed ledgers, I think that's another question for a different time. But the biggest opportunity in crypto, potentially bigger than Bitcoin, is the disruption and the distribution of the internet, because the internet is more valuable than money itself. And I don't mean in, necessarily dollar terms, although you could perhaps argue the companies on the internet are worth more than the US dollars in existence. I don't know how you'd make that argument, but you see where I'm going with this. The influence of humanity is more valuable than money itself. You can buy influence with money, but ultimately being the apparatus, which is why internet companies are as big as they are, that essentially influences humanity, can influence elections, can influence the very thought on what money is itself, which is what we're seeing with Bitcoin, is more valuable than money. And with distributed ledgers, you can actually distribute these systems and have a ledger that basically runs and maintains them. So it's a longer video. I wanted to share some thoughts with you guys, and we'll probably do more of these, probably outside, not in the office. I got back, I was in 3 different countries in 9 days in Europe. I love Europe. I love the world as a whole. I think there's so many beautiful places out there, and travel really does broaden the mind. And it's amazing to see how people live in different countries. I mean, the UK, we're crybabies about house prices and things like this. Believe me, we've got it very easy in the UK. Yeah, taxes suck. Yeah, house prices suck, but not as bad as they do in many countries in the EU. That's for sure. But I'm digressing. This was just a different video to talk and try and maybe help people to understand that the opportunity with altcoins is a real one, because many of these coins that are distributing the internet and deep in projects and decentralized AI products, which is where I'm predominantly in, by the way, in terms of my portfolio. You want to unlock my portfolio, do become a Patreon. Got lots of really small plays in there that I think will do well, because they're the enablers of tomorrow's world and this kind of decentralized internet. And there's lots of things we haven't covered in this video, but this video is really about doing a little bit of thought with you guys, provoking some thought and helping people to sort of understand that there's this threat right now to humanity in regards to giving the control over the very things that influence us nowadays. I'd argue you learn more from the internet as a kid than you do your parents at this point. And I grew up in a very sweet spot, which might give my age away a little bit here, where when I was a kid, I didn't have a mobile phone. I used to have to go and knock on someone's door. The world is vastly different now. The things that influence the world are massively different now. The internet, before it was perhaps radio and newspapers, whatever it was. But there needs to be a disruption of this, and with a distributed ledger, they can do that, which is going to be a great thing for humanity as a whole, but secondly, also provide a massive opportunity, which is what we're all about here. We hunt out investment opportunities, and the need to have a distributed ledger is more important, I think, when it comes to the internet than it is money itself. I might be totally wrong on that. It's a bet I'm personally taking. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section. Did you enjoy this different style video? What did you think? I certainly enjoyed presenting it. If you want more of these, maybe it's a total flop and people don't want to listen to me talk about all this stuff. Maybe it's a huge success. We'll see. But there is an absolute issue right now in regards to the centralization of the internet, and thus the algorithms and soon to be AI that get generated as a result of it. We saw the Gemini incident. It was interesting to say the least. It was inaccurate, but there was clearly an agenda there that was pushed forward, which, right or wrong, who knows, but I'm just saying we need to distribute them. Blockchains offer that answer, I think. Hopefully, I think there's going to be some hidden enemies. But yeah, that's it from me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I enjoyed presenting it. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section. Do you want more of these videos where I sort of ramble and talk about opportunities as I see them, the world as I see it, or would you just prefer that I stick with covering specific projects and not sort of theorizing what's going on here on a more perhaps deeper and maybe more confusing, I don't know, level? That's it from me. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.